This is a story about another thing from the PBS show Curious George. This one is called Curious George Takes a Job. This is George. He lived in the zoo. He was a good little monkey and always very curious. He wanted to find out what he was going on outside the zoo. One day, when the keeper was not paying attention, George got hold of the key for the cage. When the keeper discovered what happened, it was too late. George was gone. Where was George? They looked for him everywhere, but they could not find him. George was heading in the bay of his friend, the elephant. Finally, the keepers gave up looking for him. George was in a nice cozy spot to sleep under the elephant's right car. And the next morning, before the zoo opened, he got away safely. Once in the street, George left a little scared. What should he do in the big city? Maybe he could find his friends. The man with the yellow hat, who had brought him over from Africa a long time ago. Only George did not know where he lived. The bus stopped at the corner. George had never ridden on one. Quickly he climbed on a lamppost, jumped on top of the bus, and off they went. Now they were stuck in the corner of the town. Then there was so much to see that George did not know where to look first. If only he could go on like this forever. After a while, George got tired and a little dizzy. When the bus slowed down to turn into a side storm, George jumped off. There was a restaurant right in the front of him. Something smelled good. Suddenly, George felt very hungry. The kitchen door stood open, and George walked in. On the table was a big pot. Of course, George was very curious. He had to find out what was in it. When the cook came back, he had a big surprise. Spaghetti was all over the place, and in the middle of it was a little monkey. George had been eating yards and yards and had wounded himself all up in it. The cook was a kind man and did not scold much, but George had to clean up the kitchen and then do all the dishes. My, what a lot of them there were. The cook was watching George. "You are lucky to have 4 hands," he said. "You can do things twice as quickly." "I have a friend who could use a little fellow like you wash windows. If you would like to, I will take you over to him." So they went into the subway and took an uptown train to the cook's friend, who was an elevator man in a skyscraper. "Sure, I can use you," said the elevator man. Then George, "I will give you what you need for the job. You can start right away. But remember, you are here for washing windows. Never mind what people inside the house are doing. Don't be curious or you'll get in trouble." George promised to be good, but little monkeys are sometimes forget. George was ready to start. My, how many windows there were. But George got ahead quickly since he worked with all 4 hands. He jumped from window to window just as had once jumped from tree to tree in the African jungle. For a while, George stuck to his work and did not pay any attention to the people inside. Of course he was curious, but he remembered his promise. In one room was a little boy who was crying because he did not want to eat his spinach like DW. "This is spinach, and I hate spinach!" George did not even look, but went right on with his work. In another room, a man was taking a nap and sleeping. George was soon not his friend. The man with the yellow hat, he listened to the funny monkey for a while, then went straight working. But what was going on in here? George stopped working and pressed his nose again. Two painters were working inside. George was fascinated. Painting looked like a lot of more fun than washing windows. Painters were getting ready to go for lunch. Then 1 minute they left. George climbed inside. What wonderful paints and brushes they had. George could not resist.